Have you ever played against someone who wasn't the fastest, strongest, or most skillful player on the pitch? But somehow they always seemed impossible to stop? They always received the ball in space, always knew where the next pass was, always looked calm while everyone else looked rushed. And the frustrating part? It didn't even look like they were trying that hard. Most players see those footballers and think, he has a high football IQ. But that's where the misunderstanding starts. Because football intelligence isn't what most players think it is. In fact, some of the smartest footballers in the world aren't making genius decisions because they were born smarter. They're doing something that almost nobody teaches young players. And once you understand it, you'll start seeing football completely differently. Because the biggest difference between average players and intelligent players isn't decision-making. It's what happens before the decision. Most footballers think intelligence means making the right choice. Pass here, dribble there, shoot now, keep possession. But that's only the final step. Think about it this way. Imagine two players receive the exact same pass. One instantly knows what to do. The other panics, hesitates, and loses the ball. The mistake is assuming the first player made a better decision in that moment. What if the real reason was that he had already solved the problem before the ball arrived? That's the part most players never understand. Football intelligence isn't primarily about thinking faster. It's about needing less thinking when the ball arrives. And that's why some players always look one step ahead. They're not reacting better. They're preparing earlier. Here's the hidden reason most players struggle with football intelligence. They only switch their brain on when they get the ball. The moment the pass comes, they suddenly start asking, where are my teammates? Where's the pressure? Should I pass? Should I turn? Should I dribble? But football moves too fast for that. By the time you're asking those questions, you're already late. The smartest players ask those questions before the ball ever reaches them. Watch elite midfielders. Before receiving the ball, they're constantly scanning. Head up. Quick glance. Another glance. Check shoulder. Look again. They're collecting information every few seconds. Not because coaches tell them to, because information creates time. And time is the most valuable currency in football. People think great players have more time. The truth is they create more time, and they do it through information. The more information you gather before receiving the ball, the less thinking you need afterward. That's the secret. But intelligence goes deeper than scanning. Let's break down the 4 habits that make smart players look like they're always ahead of everyone else. Lesson 1. They do and watch the ball allthe time. This sounds obvious. Yet most players spend entire matches staring at the ball. They follow the ball like spectators. Smart players do something different. They're watching the spaces around the ball. Because football isn't really about where the ball is. It's about where the ball is about to go. Think about defenders. Average defenders react after the pass is played. Intelligent defenders recognize the pass before it happens. Think about midfielders. Average midfielders see an open space after it appears. Smart midfielders notice the space while it's forming. That's a huge difference. Because football rewards anticipation, not reaction. Every second spent reacting puts you behind the play. Every second spent anticipating puts you ahead. The next time you watch a match, don't watch the player with the ball. Watch the smartest player on the pitch. You'll notice something strange. They're constantly observing movement away from the ball. They're reading patterns, predicting possibilities, tracking spaces. They're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Lesson 2. They recognize patterns, not moments. One reason football seems overwhelming is because players treat every situation as brand new. Smart players don't. They see patterns. For example, a winger receives the ball near the touchline. The fullback approaches aggressively. The midfielder makes an overlapping run. An average player sees 3 separate actions. An intelligent player sees a familiar pattern. He's seen it hundreds of times. He already knows the likely outcomes. That's why his decision appears instant. Not because he's guessing, because he's recognizing. This is how elite players process football so quickly. They're not analyzing every situation from scratch. They're matching what they see to patterns they've experienced before. And here's the good news. Pattern recognition can be trained. Watch matches differently. Instead of following highlights, study recurring situations. Notice how teams escape pressure. Notice how midfielders create passing angles. Notice how attackers manipulate defenders. Look for repeated themes. The more patterns you collect, the faster football starts making sense. Eventually, you'll stop seeing random events. You'll start seeing predictable structures. And that's when the game begins to slow down. Lesson 3. They position themselves before they need TO. This might be the most underrated football intelligence skill of all. Positioning. Most players move when they need the ball. Smart players move before they need it. Here's an example. Imagine your team is building from the back. The ball is still with the center back. Many players stand still and wait. Then they move once the pass becomes possible. But intelligent players are already adjusting. A few steps left, a few steps deeper, a different angle, creating passing lanes before they become necessary. This doesn't look impressive. It won't appear in highlight reels. But it's one of the biggest reasons smart players receive the ball more often. They're available before everyone else realizes they should be. Football rewards preparation. The earlier you solve problems, the easier the game becomes. If you're constantly reacting, you'll always feel rushed. If you're constantly preparing, you'll feel calm. That's not confidence. That's positioning. Lesson 4. They understand what others want TODO. The smartest footballers aren't just reading the game. They're reading people. Every player has tendencies. Every player has habits. Every player has preferences. Great football intelligence comes from understanding those patterns. A defender always dives in. A winger always cuts inside. A midfielder always looks for the safe pass. A striker always attacks the near post. The more you understand people's tendencies, the easier they become to predict. This is why experienced players often dominate younger players. Not because they're fitter, not because they're stronger, because they've seen the same behaviors thousands of times. They're reading intentions, not actions. And intentions always happen before actions. That's why intelligent players often seem psychic. They aren't. They're simply recognizing clues earlier than everyone else. Now let's turn all this into something you can actually use. Because understanding football intelligence means nothing if it doesn't improve your performances. Here's a simple challenge. For your next training session or match, focus on only 3 things. First, scan more. Every few seconds, quickly check your surroundings, especially before receiving the ball. Don't wait until possession reaches you. Gather information early. At first, it will feel unnatural. Eventually, it becomes automatic. Second, predict one action ahead. Instead of watching what is happening, ask yourself, what happens next? Where will the pass go? Who is moving into space? What is the defender trying to do? Train prediction constantly. The goal isn't to be right every time. The goal is to build anticipation. Third, arrive early. Don't move when the opportunity appears. Move before it appears. Create options before teammates need them. Position yourself before pressure arrives. Prepare before problems exist. This single habit can transform how involved you become in matches. Because football rewards players who arrive early, not players who arrive on time. Here's something most footballers never hear. Football intelligence is not a talent. It's an information advantage. The smartest player on the pitch often isn't the smartest person. They're simply collecting better information, earlier, more consistently, and using it faster. That's why smaller players can dominate bigger opponents. That's why average athletes can outperform superior athletes. That's why some players seem calm in chaotic moments. Because the moment stopped being chaotic long before it happened. They prepared for it. Most footballers train their feet every day, but very few train how they see the game. And eventually that becomes the difference. Because at higher levels, everyone can pass. Everyone can run. Everyone can control the ball. The separation comes from perception. The ability to see things before others see them. The ability to recognize patterns before others recognize them. The ability to prepare before others react. That's football intelligence. And once you understand that, you'll stop chasing flashy tricks and miracle drills. You'll start developing the skill that influences every action on the pitch. The skill that makes football feel slower. The skill that makes decisions easier. the skill that makes you look one step ahead. The next level of football isn't hidden inside some secret training program. It's hidden inside what you notice. Average players wait for information. Smart players search for it. Average players react. Smart players prepare. Average players play the game that's happening. Smart players play the game that's about to happen. And that's why they always seem one step ahead. Not because they're gifted, not because they're lucky, because they've trained themselves to see football differently. Start doing that, and you'll discover something powerful. The game hasn't gotten slower. You've gotten smarter. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the players who improve fastest aren't always the ones who train the hardest. They're often the ones who understand the game the deepest. And that's exactly what we're building here. See you in the next one.